Awesome. So my name is Dan Gandee. We're going to do another vendor spotlight series. I have not only my property manager that I have managing my own properties, but we've become friends, right? Jeremy
Yeah,
Gourley,
absolutely.
NextGen Property Management. Why don't you just kick it off by telling us who you are, how you got in the business, and just a little backstory?
Yeah. Well, Dan, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. So we're Next Generation Property Management is a family-owned and operated full-service property management company. I work directly with my wife, she's my right hand woman, I guess, in the scheme of things, and we have a wonderful team of seven other individuals. We're full service property management company. We've been doing this for about 10 years. In the Eugene Springfield area, we manage over 700 properties in this area.
Wow.
Um, it's kind of interesting. I got here. So my background way in the day was back in construction. I did a lot of, my uncle was a commercial contractor, and I did that for several years, about 10 years. And then later in life, I ended up doing insurance for 10 years. And actually, I did insurance for probably almost 15 years. I sold insurance, and Next Generation was like a little dream of mine because I was like, where can I put these skills of my communication skills and my insurance skills
Yeah.
tied together with my construction skills and attention to detail when it comes to properties together. And I was inspired to think of property management. I'm like, well, shoot, I can use both those skills. And so while I was working at State Farm, I on the side got my property management license, and literally just one property at a time, we've gradually just through developing good relationships with great people and a lot of just word of mouth referrals, we've just grown one property at a time. And I mean, a lot of it is probably my wife. She's a rock star. She handles all of our um, she does all the accounting side of things. She's got a background in banking. But yeah, so went from insurance, and then finally, so I'm still doing insurance, doing property management on the side. We finally got to the point where I could give up insurance and do property management full time. So we've been working together, uh, just doing property management for about 5 years. So the
Nice.
first 5 years I was doing both jobs. She was doing property management full time. Now we have, like I said, a team of, there's a total of seven of us. Um, yeah, seven. I was just counting. I do have like a social media person, but they're part time. Yeah, and yeah, so that's how we started anyway. And so the one thing about Next Generation that I think kind of sets us apart from other property management companies in the area. And and I apologize. Depending on who I'm talking to, I would start at the beginning and explain property management and
Yeah.
kind of what it all entails. But I know, Dan, I don't know if your viewers are at least familiar with the job, but
They
yeah,
probably get the gist, right?
yeah, especially if they're, doing any investing on their own. Maybe they're doing it on their own and they're realizing all the headaches and all the different hats you have to wear as a property manager, which um but anyway, one of the thing I think it's really important these days to hold people accountable, whether that's yourself or tenants. And so one of the things that we do is a minimum of two inspections a year. We get in and we actually look at the property, we check on the property, we see how the tenant's treating it. My philosophy has always been that collecting rent is great and everything, but preserving that investment for future generations or whatever your game plan is with that is literally just as important, if not more important, than the monthly rent that you're going to get. I've had too many people, that um, I mean, it just doesn't make sense if you get your property back and you have to put $30,000 into it. It never works. So yeah, so we really pride ourselves in just holding tenants accountable, doing thorough and consistent inspections. That's one thing that kind of separates us from other companies in the area. I think a lot of places you're kind of lucky if they get in there once a year. Now we'll inspect more. We do drive-bys frequently. I would say we probably, even between all of us, I mean, we're at least driving by everything once a month, if not more. Obviously, if there's any issues come up, we spend a little more time. But no, go ahead.
On that note, I want to talk about that for a second, because what I've noticed in property management throughout different states and investing in different states is that what I call the fade out approach, which is you build the relationship, like they come in, they do their inspections the first 6 months. And even when I was a renter, I experienced this. Like those every 6 month inspections like stopped happening. Like the lease renewed and like they just like faded out. Like they never showed up unless I would call them for repair. And I think that just one little teeny component to like you keeping consistent with that allows you to address deferred maintenance, allows you to address anything that is proactively a repair that needs to be attached. And it also keeps that radar on the tenants and in that communication pipeline, because I think the longer you don't talk to your tenants, the more and more opportunity is for the relationship to go sour. So I just wanted to input that.
No, that was perfect. That's right on. Because having, you want your tenants to feel comfortable to communicate with us, not feel like if they call us up because there's, a leak under the sink that I'm going to kick them out. I mean, I want to know about that kind of stuff. I mean, water is our enemy. The smallest little thing can turn into the biggest issue. I think I use some of my even insurance background in seeing how claims that caused all kinds of damage, and knowing what to look for, how insurance and construction background, how water and clogged gutters and things like that can actually lead to potentially other issues with the home. So if we can be proactive when we're inspecting, and so the way we're set up so that we do stay consistent is like I have a guy that's full-time property inspections, does them on a rotation, does 6 to 8 a day. Anytime we do an inspection, we put together a really thorough report with pictures. And so, and that gets emailed to the owners, because we're in a partnership with the owners of the property, where we do want them to take a look at the reports we send them, so that they can take a look at the condition. They can take a look at the previous inspection report and see, the paint is starting to fade. This is something we might want to have on the radar, or start holding some money back for a new roof. Maybe we're, you can see that the roof's starting to wear out and stuff like that. And then those reports are actually viewed by I have a maintenance coordinator that coordinates all of our maintenance, and so he reviews those reports as well to take a look and see if he notices any things that could potentially lead to a bigger issue in the future. And then I'll review them as well, especially if there's anything weird going on or any concerns whatsoever. But yeah, you're 100% right. Staying consistent and keeping that that line of communication open with our tenants. I mean, because it's a partnership even between us and the tenant. I mean, everyone has a piece to play in this puzzle to make this work and be profitable for the investor. The tenant is to pay the rent, take care of the property. We need to make sure we're managing the tenant properly, and going from there.
No, I think thanks for sharing that unique selling proposition. How we met was that I reached out to one of my friends who is a hard money lender who knows everybody in the real estate space. I'm like, hey, I need a property manager that you would hire for yourself. And he gave me Jeremy's number, and it was like the reviews and all the information and due diligence that I did prior to meeting with you checked out. And then also I got this referral from somebody that's very, trusted in the community. He was like, he manages my own properties. So I look at that, and then fast forward 6 months, we've been working together now. It's evident that is true, right? Like the reviews check out. Like I don't have tenants telling me that they hate the property management company if I show up or randomly, drive by and they see me. And so I think that integrity and that communication and also I just wanted to share real quick, your staff is on it. So if we send an email and there's something that we need to work out, we communicate, and that is super big to an investor who's looking for something. The point I'm getting at is having the boots on the ground, the eyes on the property, especially if they're out of state. Because a lot of my clients are out of state. They're like, hey, Dan, I'm going to be investing with you. I'm not going to be there all the time. I'm probably going to show up once a year, twice a year, take a look at things. And I'm like, you need to talk to Jeremy. Let them be the eyes and ears. So why don't we just touch on that? Do you have a lot of investors? You don't have to give me a percentage or a number, but do you work with out-of-state investors who, put that element of trust in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually work for a handful of out-of-state investors, primarily out of California. A few from, sometimes I'll get unique situations. I have actually an investor that lives in Hawaii that has family here and buys some stuff. But absolutely, and real quick, touching back on my team, I think that's another thing that you get. So when someone's like deciding, do I really want to use property management or do this myself? Well, you don't just get me for a minimal fee of the collective rent. You get my entire team. And when there is a problem, we actually are very involved with the Rental Owners Association. So we stay current on all the laws and stuff. And I'll get back to your specific question, but having my entire team kind of back up, we work as a team with the investor. We want to manage this property properly, and you get my entire team. And so you got more than just me on it. We have a team that, we all have input. We all have our strengths. But yeah, absolutely. I work with a lot of owners. I have one owner out of California that really likes to find the disturbed properties that are barely habitable, purchase those. And he works with, and normally when he buys a property, he ends up getting a pretty good sized check back for repairs. But the property then again, is barely livable, or maybe even not. And so I've actually been able to work with him. I have a really good partnership with a lot of different contractors, where we can, work directly with them to get these properties, brought up and get them rented. So, and it's worked out pretty good. It's all about good, clear communication. We communicate in all different ways, whether it's the phone or even something like this, Zoom. I've actually Zoomed with owners out of town, just put a name with a face and or FaceTiming, looking at properties before. I go to a lot of, anytime my investors are thinking about purchasing a property, if they're doing like an inspection, I almost always go to those with the inspector, at least the end of it, to kind of get an idea what's, what I think it'd rent for, what things I'm noticing. It's a partnership. So absolutely. We work with a lot of out of town and yeah, just make it work.
And on that point, that I've been utilizing Jeremy and giving him like a heads up email or a call, like, hey, I just went pending, inspections this date. Hey, I'd like you to kind of just run some comps on this. And I think to the investor, that's super important, because that due diligence period, they're not only looking at the physical condition of the property, but they're also looking at the pro forma and the projected performance of that property. Because I have a lot of investors that'll call me and they'll be like, hey, what do you think about this property? And I'll say on a subsequent condition aspect, it needs work. So if you're afraid of those types of projects, don't do it. But from a pro forma standpoint, you got vacancies, like you can fill it and probably double the rents of what they were. And there's a lot of weight of having that type of relationship with some person like you, who can actually look at things and be like, listen, Dan, this might be realistic, this may not be realistic, but that due diligence period is huge.
Yeah. And that's something that we, to the very best of our ability. I mean, people are always asking me, what can I rent this for? And you want to, and most of the time we're pretty accurate. The markets change just like they do in sales. It changes a little bit. Inventory increases, so the demand slows down a little bit, which causes prices not. I mean, I would say, but yeah, we're able to basically within a range of a couple $100 pretty confidently tell someone, hey, this is what you can get on your return for rents on that property moving forward. And then they can work everything backwards and see if that makes sense and go from there.
Yeah. And then in terms of paperwork, like annual reports, like the monthly statements that come out, what do you provide the investor or the property management customer so that they can turn around and give that to their CPA or whomever, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So every month we do a monthly accounting of your properties or property, which will break down any expenses we paid, basically the rent we collected, and then at the end of the year we'll do a year-end statement for the owner along with the 1099 for tax reporting. We take care of all that, and keep it all tracked for you. We have a software system that basically keeps track of all that for us, and and you'll get all that at the end of the year. Well, one thing to add, with using us, whenever we do have maintenance on a rental property, we don't make our money that way. I only make my money off of rent collected. So like if I had to call a plumber for someone's property to clear a line, the investor or the owner is going to see that plumber's invoice. We don't add anything to it. We don't upcharge it. We actually use a lot of these contractors so much that we actually get a little bit of a discounted rate. So that's just another feature, another benefit, I guess, for using property management who has that relationship. Plus we can get out quickly to issues, because a lot of issues, I mean, not only is it extremely uncomfortable for the tenant, but also, you don't want something to wait too long, or it's going to potentially cause more damage to your home. But that's kind of how that works. And yeah, every month you get a breakdown. We actually are set up to have online portals for our owners and our tenants. So a lot of this paperwork you can have at just your own little login to your own portal, where some people love that. Some of my older clients don't love that, but that's fine. Nail it as well. Trying to get everyone to go to that, because it's definitely, once you figure out how to use it, it's so simple. And then you can stay up to speed with the tenants and everything and what's going on with them.
Yeah, no, I think that's super key. And one last component before we kind of round this out is that the investor is always looking for opportunity. The investor is always trying to make sound decisions, but also the tenants are also looking for properties. And I think what's really unique about your company is that there's a lot of different companies and competition in the area, right? And your portal, how it's set up, I've been able to text people. Like I get calls all the time from people that are like, actually, I'm just looking to rent. Do you do rentals? And I'm like, no, I don't. But here's a link. Here's a link. Here's a link. Yeah. And it's and I try to tell everybody like the importance of technology and being able to have tenants be able to search your website, look for vacancies, because what they do is they scour Craigslist, they scour Facebook Marketplace, they can't find anything, and then they like don't know where to start Google searching property management companies to like figure out that there's even vacancy available on their websites. And point I'm getting at with all of this is there's a lot of property managers in town that don't even have a list that is updated and accurate of what's available for tenants. Down traffic.
Yeah. And our that is one thing. Our website's always current and up to date. We're adding properties, removing properties like daily, depending on what's going on. But yeah, it's really important to keep that up to date and accurate. And if you call my office too, we'll we have a lot of people that just stop in sometimes. I mean, everything is online. Just letting people know what's going on.
Awesome. Last question I have, and then we'll kind of, break it down, is that, if an investor wants to get started with you, what's the next step? Do they reach out to you on your website, send you an inquiry? Like what do you prefer?
Yeah.
What information do you need?
That's okay. Yeah. This is great. So basically, if an investor's thinking about buying a property, they can, once they have the address of the property they're thinking about buying, give us a call, shoot us an email. We're happy to start the discussion at that point. And, we can take a look at it, whether we pull it up on the computer or go look at the property prior and kind of help them through the process as far as what they think it'd rent for. I actually get a lot of calls from people just, hey, I'm thinking about buying this. What would it rent for? And I don't mind doing that. I think that's important. And I can pull up, similar properties that we manage in the area and give them pretty accurate rent comps. But if they are interested in, Yeah, email, call. I love to meet people face to face eventually, but I do understand some people are out of town and we can get creative on that aspect. But basically, one of the first things I always do is I do share my property management agreement with the client, because I want them to know exactly what this arrangement is. I want to set the expectation. I want to make sure that I manage the property like you as the investor, the owner, want me to, because my goal is I work for you and I want to take, I want this to work. I want everyone to be comfortable. I want the property to work for the investor. And so I don't know if I answered your question correctly, but yeah, I
No,
mean,
you did. And I think that's what I try to do on the real estate brokerage side when working with an investor is a couple things. I try to, in that due diligence period, if I can collect anything before we go into contract, I'm going to try to get like copies of the leases, the rent roll, any utility bills, any copies of insurance. But even if we're in the due diligence period, me as a real estate broker, so I'm trying to collect everything I need to do in order to do the due diligence. And I put it in a Google folder. And then what I'll do is I'll run an annual property operating data, an APOD report, which basically has all the current rents, what the current utility costs that we've collected, any taxes, insurance, any additional income like laundry or parking or something else that is in that mix. And then I try to take all of my due diligence documents and then this APOD, and then I call Jeremy and say, hey, what could we rent this for? Like, what is the market rent in terms of pro forma? Then I'll fill out a monthly pro forma, which I'll also fill out the annual pro forma. And then basically the investor has like everything they need to know about the property and the due diligence and the investment property addendum, but also they have some property management verified comparative market analysis of what the rent is. And I think that's super important to the investor, because it's not just me giving them that number. Like it happened a couple of weeks ago. Somebody was like, what do you think it'll rent for? I sent them a couple screenshots, told them the area is probably this, but I was like, don't rely just on this number. Call Jeremy yourself.
Yeah.
So that's how we package things up. And then I provide that to Jeremy and he can do a little bit of research and look into those variables. So
yeah, more information, the better. And that's one thing. And when I started working for you, you gave me everything I needed to know. And that's great, because anytime, I mean, even when we go to manage a property for the first time, just knowing everything we can about that property, just to make sure we're properly taking care of it. Does it have a well? Does it have a septic tank? Those maintenance things need to be taken care of. It's different than city water and city sewer. There's different things we got to take care of. Or if you're talking about a multifamily unit, you want to make sure you have the proper fire extinguishers in the common doorways and stuff like that. And those are the things that we stay up to speed on, and because those are all liability issues that could potentially cost an owner a lot of money. And so by having proper property management on looking out for you in that aspect, knowing the laws, knowing how to deal with the tenants, it's huge as far as peace of mind for potential issues down the road. Peace of mind, and then also on another note, we're set up to deal with tenants 24/7. I have a call. We have people that answer the phone 24/7. So just having that peace of mind too, that your management company is going to deal with issues even in the middle of the night, and it's not going to be on you, as an investor, as an owner. I mean, that's huge too. And we're gonna get up and do it right too. We're gonna that's one thing. Tell a lot of people, I own my own rentals as well, so knowing how to spend your money the right way, not throw it away. I don't ever like spending anyone else's money without them necessarily knowing about it, but just making sure it's spent right. And you don't want to throw good money at bad things. You want to and so we're set up to do that, and that's always on the front of our mind.
Yeah, no, that's a part of the, nothing against anybody who owns a property management company that doesn't own any rentals, because everybody starts, at ground zero, or maybe they're not interested in it. But, I always try to play ball with people who are actually doing it. Right. And they have a little bit better intelligence of some of the anticipated problems and all that. But, very much thank you for all of this time you've given us. You've been great to work with. I'm going to put all of Jeremy's contact information below this video. If you're in, oh, I need to ask one last question. Sorry, I keep saying this. How far will you go in terms of service area? Because I'm going to have all your contact information below. So if somebody's in Oregon or Lane County, we're at.
That's a good question. So I would say primarily Eugene, Springfield, but we do, but I do have properties in Crestwell. We have some in Cottage Grove. We have some in Junction City and some in Harrisburg. And I'd say up the river, like Walterville area is probably about where we stop. And then we do have a few in Veneta. So it's pretty spread out. It's almost just not all the way to Florence. I won't go to Florence. I won't go up to Roseburg yet. And I would say, Salem's too far away, or Albany probably too. So yeah, I don't know. Does that help?
Yeah, no, totally. And then short-term rentals or no short-term rentals?
We don't do any Airbnb type stuff. So everything is no short term.
Okay, perfect. But pretty much everything else, multifamily, commercial.
Yes.
Multifamily, commercial, single family, duplexes.
Absolutely. We're the ones. Yeah. We don't do definitely a smaller commercial. Just to be honest, we currently manage maybe 20 small commercial units. So primarily we're a residential property management company, but yeah, we can do a little bit of that here and there. So
awesome. Well, I want to tell everybody, if you're looking for property management, or if I've sent you this video because we've been in contact about investing in the greater Lane County area, hit up Jeremy. He's a great guy. We'll definitely have you back on here in another year or so and kind of talk about some other topics, but really thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. All right. Have a good day.